Welcome, everybody, to episode 84 of Films and Fermentation. That's right, we are Films and Fermentation, a movie and alcohol podcast. I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
We're three friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting shit-faced. This is episode 84, as I said. This episode is Villains Who Turned Good. In this episode, we're going to look at villains. Started out bad guys, but eventually became good guys. Villains we love so much that the writers eventually had to make them one of the heroes. Don't forget to drop us an email at filmsandfermentation@gmail.com or visit us at linktree.com/filmsandfermentation to find all of our social media and podcast links. We had a little change in location for our merchandise store. I had a little problem with TeePublic. So we are now on a different website called Teespring. Basically the same type of deal. You know, you can get t-shirts, mugs, all that kind of stuff. I just had to deal with some problems with TeePublic. I could talk to you guys about that later.
Okay.
This episode, of course, is brought to you by Dubby, all natural energy drink. Dubby is an all natural energy drink. It uses a patented all-natural coffee cherry extract to help fuel you. This ingredient is what gives Dubby its laser focus and fast reflexes, making it perfect for gamers everywhere. Dubby contains important amino acids, vitamins that canned energy drinks simply don't have. Dubby never uses fillers or artificial colors. It's a sugar-free and keto-friendly alternative energy drink. Choose from flavors such as Dragonade, Beach and Peach, and Galaxy Grenade. Guaranteed to boost energy without giving you the jitters. Go to dubby.gg to order today. Use the promo code FILMSFERMENT, that's FILMSFERMENT, FILMSFERMENT, and receive 10% off every order, every time. Dubby. Be better. Dubby.gg. Yeah, sorry, Kev. I forgot to talk about which one who's going to do what. So
I'm cool.
I'll
I'm good.
You can. You're sexier when you do the Newsly one, anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because you read it in that natural human voice.
Natural human
Kevin
voice.
brings the sexy.
Mhm. So, what are we drinking tonight, gentlemen? Kev, I'm going to start with you this week.
Cool. I'm actually trying to move out of fall, move into the holiday beers, and that means I need to kind of clear out the fridge. So I'm working my way through Oktoberfest. You know, always a good one. By Sam Adams. I'm enjoying that right now, presently, and shortly, I'm sure I'll be enjoying this pumpkin ale from Spellbound, which is out of Mount Holly. This one's a whopping 8.1% alcohol by volume. This is described as a pumpkin ale is amber in color, boasting big aromas of cinnamon and nutmeg, vanilla, and a hint of ginger. The nutmeg and cinnamon come through in the flavor with a touch of malt sweetness in the finish.
Nice. Mike, what do you have going on tonight?
I am doing a Devil's Backbone night. As you know, I went down to Total Wine and More in Damon's Road. You saw the picture of your most favoriteest beer, Leo.
Yep.
And I picked up 2 new types of Devil's Backbone.
So
The first one.
You didn't pick up that Chouflé sampler pack?
No.
Cherry souffle.
I did, but it's a Christmas gift for Leo. No, I did not.
Yes.
The first thing I did pick up some Mad Elf, though, by the way, Kev.
Nice.
I picked up a lot of Christmas beers. But for that, I am starting off with Devil's Backbone Distilling Company's Bourbon Orange Smash Limited Edition. 7.5% alcohol by volume, made with bourbon, whiskey, and triple sec.
Wow.
That sounds great.
And natural flavors.
Sounds really good.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm starting with. And I'm going to finish off with, and this one I only have one bottle of. They only have one bottle. So sorry, guys, you don't get to try it. It is Devil's Backbone Old Fest Lager. So it's their Oktoberfest.
Nice.
Smooth, malty, and bready notes. And it is 5.9% alcohol by volume.
Since your drink fact last week was about the 20 drinks that you need to try, and it was about dragon's milk last week.
You're going with Dragon's Milk.
I was going to do the dragon's milk tonight. I was planning on it all day, and then after I ate dinner, I was like, you know what? I need something lighter. I don't really feel like that heavy drink tonight. So I have so many different beers to try, from the mystery pack that Kevin gave me to the sampler pack that I bought to the packs, samplers that Mike gave me from all of his different trips, that I'm like, I don't know where to start. So I'm just going to grab a beer. So I grabbed one from the Aslan Beer Company, which Mike, I think, is from you, right?
Yep.
This is one of the ones from Virginia. It's called the Much Ado Hell's Lager.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, well, I like Much Ado About Nothing. It's one of my favorite Shakespeare plays. So let me drink the Much Ado beer. It's very good. It's light. It's 4.5% alcohol by volume.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very refreshing. It's a nice light lager.
Nice lager.
Oh, that was one of the ones I was considering for tonight too.
It's very good.
Still have that in my. I still have that in my fridge.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
And then I figured if I get to a second beer tonight, I'm just gonna do another grab what's in there and see what happens, kind of thing. Because there's so many different things in there to sample. Well, I think I got rid of the worst of the ones that came in that mystery pack. Because I was very specific about the ones I chose that night. The other ones all look like ones that more or less fall into the category of beers that I would normally drink. So, what's your history fact for us tonight, Mike?
This day in film history. This day in film history in 2001, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the first film adaptation of the book series by J.K. Rowling, starring Daniel Radcliffe, premieres in the U.S.
I can't believe that came out in 2001.
I know.
God, I feel old.
Yeah, I mean, we are old. It's like
I felt old when that came out.
Yeah, and then I just saw I just watched the Weird film, the Weird Al Yankovic film with Daniel Radcliffe.
Any good?
How was
and it was weird. It lived up to the title. It was interesting. It was definitely written by Weird Al. He was pretty funny in it. Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al Yankovic. But I'm I'm like, wow, this is Harry fucking Potter right now playing Weird Al Yankovic, and he's buff, man, super buff right now, and I'm like, Jesus. And then I think 2001, Daniel Radcliffe, and he was just this little little pudgy, nubby little boy. And how times have changed.
Yeah.
And I remember when the first film came out, Katie was working at the Franklin Mills Mall, and I used to go pick her up from work, and I decided to go early so I can watch the movie before I picked her up, and not timing it correctly because I didn't realize the movie was going to be 8.5 hours long. And so I ended up having to leave before the ending. So I could pick her up.
You realized Harry Potter was Voldemort.
Yeah, and that's I was like, they're the same person. Jesus, every movie ends with everybody being the same person. And I ended up having to go back to see it again just so I can see the ending. What's your fun drink fact for us tonight, Mike?
Oh, tonight I'm going to go with one of those other top 20 must-try beers.
Mm-hmm.
This one is Stranger Than Fiction Porter from Collective Arts Brewery in Wannabe, Wisconsin. Cascade and Nugget Hop Spice this 5.5% alcohol by volume American Porter, but it's the supple malt complexity that makes it worth your while. Off-white foam, a half-inch thick, covers the near-black, brilliantly clear brew with aromatics including maple syrup, baking chocolate, and vanilla latte. It's very much a dessert beer up front, but the expressive malt melange takes a sharper edge on the palate. There you go.
Okay.
It sounds good, and it sounded like one that I thought I had. So I just looked it up on Untapped, and the brewery is in Canada, so I'm pretty sure I haven't had this one before. But I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this on the screen or not because it's on my phone. But this is the cover of their bottle. It's not going to come out real well.
Not very well, no.
It's a picture of a blowfish with its mouth open. Like that's the front of the bottle. Collective Art, Stranger Than Fiction Porter, 5.5% alcohol by volume.
Yep.
That sounds like something I'd like. You know me and my pastry beers.
It does sound good. I mean, it sounds like something I might actually enjoy too. Let me see.
I
if
had
can...
something
Here it is.
last.
There you go.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I had something last Friday that I think you guys. Well, I don't know if you'd like it or not. It's weird that this is becoming a thing anymore because I know Dunkin's is putting it out, and I think another company has put something out. It's cookie butter. Cookie butter is the seasonal treat, I guess, this year. I had it's called a speculoos cookie butter.
Butter or cookie batter?
Butter. So
okay.
I knew of this years back when I knew somebody who was allergic to peanuts, but so they couldn't have peanut butter sandwiches, but I would make them cookie butter sandwiches it's a biscotti spread, right? And it tastes like the biscotti cookies. So last weekend I was out at a friend's house for a housewarming party, and he had in his beer fridge Speculoos cookie butter beer from Hardywood Park Craft Brewing. It was great. I loved it. It was I gave it a 4.5, I think. Yeah, 4.5. And it was a very sweet pastry-ish kind of beer. But I think that might be the seasonal treat this year is cookie butter, because
cookie butter
Dunkin's.
It just sounds like something I'd have to go on Urban Dictionary to find out the definition of.
Dude, it's like peanut butter, but it tastes like cookies. It's really sweet.
Cookie butter.
Yeah,
Cookie
Biscotti
butter.
I know makes a spread, and Biscotti has like their own version of like the cookie that they use for cookie butter, and it's good. So Dunkin' has its own cookie butter cold brew, and they have a cookie butter donut right now, and tried this cookie butter beer.
So I'm on Google right now. What is cookie butter made of? Cookie butter is a decadent treat that's gained a cult following in the U.S. in the last few years. It's made up of pulverized spice cookies, some type of fat, usually vegetable oil, condensed milk, flour, and a lot of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
And it's spreadable like butter. That is interesting. I've never heard of this before. Cookie butter.
Cookie butter. Stop at Dunkin' tomorrow on the way into work. Get a cookie butter donut. It's filled with cookie butter spread on the inside. It's got an icing on top with crushed cookies on top.
All righty. I don't have any notes from the last show. It was our bracket episode for Best Duo. I tried doing a survey on Twitter, but it didn't really go over that well. I only had like 8 votes. I don't know why. I tried promoting it too. Like I didn't get like hardly anybody voting on it. Overall, I thought it wasn't as bad an episode as I expected it to be, because like it didn't sound like we did much debating for some of them.
No.
But as I listened to the episode, there was debate in there. You know, it was a lot of, you know, it was still a fun episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like this is how like pathetic I've become. Like I listened to every episode twice now.
Ooh.
Because it's like I listened to it after I finished editing it to make sure I didn't
Right.
miss anything, and then I listened to it again Monday morning when it releases.
I think it's a different way you sound in that editing.
Yeah.
Thing. You want to hear the whole thing through.
So it's like, yeah, I've been listening to it a lot more often now. But I did have my synopsis according to Glip from last week. This is a weird one. The speakers discussed natural energy training, powered duos of Spellbound Brewing Pumpkin Ale, Blankets of Freedom came up again apparently, independent podcast, and Backseat with Woody and Buzz. I don't remember ever getting into the back seat with Woody and Buzz in that episode.
No. That's a whole nother kind of movie that we don't cover on this show.
Well, the
I
blanket
know.
of freedom came up because Kevin asked about it, and we had to explain it again.
Yeah, I know where the blankets of freedom came from, but the rest of it, it's just like a hodgepodge of shit that we talked about.
Guys,
Yeah.
I don't think I was paying attention last week. What is this blanket of freedom?
Oh God!
Let's see if we can get 3 in a row. Blankets of Freedom refers to A Few Good Men and the monologue by Jack Nicholson when he's on trial.
Ah, yes.
You sleep under the blanket of freedom I provide and question how I provide it. I didn't want to put this into this day in film history stuff because I feel like this shouldn't be any history shit anymore. This is just, more sadness. R.I.P. to Kevin Conroy, longtime voice actor, best known for Batman the Animated Series. He was 66 years old.
Longest running Batman. Longest
most appearances ever.
Batman.
And I looked up his IMDb. Like he actually was in a few performances that weren't voice acting. But for the most part, his career was voice acting.
Yeah.
And he did Batman in over 15 different properties, from the cartoons to the video games and stuff.
Yeah.
And then on one of the TV shows, I want to say it was Titans.
It's
I think it was Titans.
I don't know if it was Titans or whether it was the Arrowverse, and
I think it might have been one of the Arrowverse
Crisis
shows.
on Infinite Earth.
He appears as the older Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
So he became the first actor to play Bruce Wayne both as a voice actor and as an actor.
Which is very cool.
Yeah,
and this was the role itself helped him with his, coming out as a gay actor.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I learned that too. Yeah, I learned that too when I was reviewing his IMDb page. Yeah, it's sad. It actually makes me want to go back and rewatch the original animated series.
Yeah.
From the early 90s, because I love that show. I used to remember racing home from school to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was great.
Also, R.I.P. to Gallagher, the popular watermelon smashing comedian from the 80s. He was 76 years old. It was literally I think the day after Kevin Conroy, or one of them was the day after the other.
Yeah.
Gallagher had one of my favorite stand-up bits of all time, where he talks about how crazy the English language is. And he starts out with, what's this word here? B-O-M-B. And the crowd goes, bomb. And he goes, good. Now what's this word? C-O-M-B. Calm? No. Comb. C-O-M-B. Comb? T-O-M-B. Tome? No. Tomb. And then he goes through a whole list of words, like home and some and poem and home, all these different words. And then at the very end, he goes, if you ask me, the whole thing is just dumb. D-U-M-B. It was one of my favorite stand-up bits of all time. So our Good Pod rankings kind of remain stable this week. We didn't really go too far either way. But that being said, I still have some shout-outs I'd like to make tonight, because we do have a lot of other independent podcasts out there who support us, either by listening to the show, rating us on Good Pods, or just support on Twitter or whatever it might be. We have a large independent podcast community out there that we are a part of, and we'd like to show them the same support that they show us. So guys, I figured we'd do this the same way we did it last week.
Okay.
We each take turns with this. So Mike, why don't you go ahead?
So here's a shout out to Wrestling World with Austin Boyer.
Shout out to 1420 Sports Bar Podcast.
Big thanks to Manic Pixie Weirdo Podcast.
Thanks to Recast 2.0.
Thanks again to Brandon and Travis at Interdimensional RSS, the unofficial Rick and Morty podcast. Also, the Apathetic Enthusiasm podcast.
Sending a shout out to Bar Banter.
Saying thank you to Mr. Gentleman.
Shout out to 8750 with Yeti F.
Sending a big thank you out to the Pizza Boy himself, You, Me, and a Movie with Donald.
I would give that one to you on purpose.
A huge thank you to Space Castle, who designed our logos, in which you can buy them at
Teespring.
Here we go.
Teespring.com. It's the fermented films storefront. All Hallows Eve. I like to give a shout out to their podcast. They wrote to us on Twitter earlier this week about our ranking at number 3 last week. They said, congratulations on the ranking. Everyone out there, please give these guys a listen. Episode 83, Favorite Duos in Film. You can listen to it on Good Pods. It's worth the time. So that's a nice little shout out from them.
Nice. We also want to send a shout out to the Fandalorians podcast.
Shout out to Quad Pro Quo.
Thank you to Chime In Podcast.
Big thanks to DJ Scoob at The Undiscovered Entrepreneur.
Want to give a thank you to the Geeky Dad Podcast.
And give a shout out to a new podcast on our shout out list. I Finally Watched Podcast, who wrote to us on Twitter. Special podcast shout out to these awesome movie and TV pods, and included our name on the list of shout outs.
Now, I don't know if this is a setup or what, that Pitch This Podcast is getting a shout out. Pitch This Podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It seems a little, no. Pitch This Podcast. Thanks so much for supporting us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's another new one out there that gave us some shout outs this week.
It's just it's a cute name that kind of like, it promotes itself just by saying its name.
We're going to give a shout out to the Screen Snobs.
Screen Snobs. And then our final shout out, not a, least of all kind of shout out. This is Jen, at Jen TCM. Jen has been a good supporter of the show since we started on Twitter. She actually hosts a show on Apple TV on the Film Detective show called Classic Films for Kids, which she hosts with her own 7-year-old son.
Nice.
They watch all these movies from like the 30s and 40s and 50s that are kid friendly.
I was going to ask, is this, the TCM for Turner Classic Movies?
Yeah, Turner Classic Movies. Yeah, Jen
Wow.
TCM. Her name is Jennifer Churchill, host of Classic Films for Kids, The Film Detective on Apple TV.
Nice.
She's also author of the book Movies Are Magic. So she is somebody else I want to kind of reach out to at some point, I think. Our main segment this evening is brought to you, as always, by Newsly, about to be read to you in a sexy human voice.
Not like that. Not like this at all.
Newsly is an all-in-one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to go away.
That was a very good Bobcat Goldthwait impression.
Well, I watched Scrooge. Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up the most trending articles on the web on topics you choose at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time ever, the entire web becomes listenable, all in one place. Follow any topic from sports, tech, business, science, even Bitcoin. It'll find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud. And they have a podcast as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 80 countries. Our podcast is there too. Download and use Newsly for free now from www.newsly.me or from the link in the description, and use the promo code NFERMENT to receive 1 month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling. Start listening. Newsly!
Stop me! Hey, Lee, can you pause it for a second?
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right. So our main segment this evening is all about characters who started out as villains, started out as the bad guys, and then eventually were redeemed in some way, or their character arc was rectified, and they became, in some cases, the good guy, some cases the hero, some cases just, assisting the hero in some way because, they saw a change of heart or whatever it was.
No longer the asshole.
No longer the asshole, yeah. And I did something I don't normally do in this. I included some TV characters as well. Usually I stick to movies, but At least the first one on the list I thought was too good to not include,
Yeah.
considering how
Mhm.
popular a character he is now. And that is the character of Steve Harrington, played by Joe Keery on Stranger Things. And
He
it's
was so
funny.
popular, they just wrote him in to keep. He was so popular with them, he wrote him
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, and they kept him alive because of the popularity of him.
He
You
was
know?
supposed to die in the first season as the villain, as like an asshole character.
Mhm.
But they said it was the actor himself was such a nice guy
Yeah.
that they decided to write the redemption arc, and he ended up becoming a good guy. And actually, like, he's one of my favorite characters in the show because I love the relationship he has with Dustin.
Dustin?
Yeah, him and Dustin are funny together. And this season, he was really good in the last season as well.
Hmm.
A couple times where you thought he was going to like sacrifice himself. So yeah, Steve Harrington. So my idea for this was, I'm going to ask you guys: was I right to include them on the list, or are they really not as good as I think they are?
No, you were right to include him on the list. Though
Yeah.
I'd say his character arc, it's primarily like good guy,
Mhm.
but he had the few episodes in the beginning where he really came off as,
The rich,
an asshole.
the rich
Yeah.
asshole.
Mhm.
And now I think his character arc is kind of going towards reuniting with Nancy. It looks like,
Yeah.
and he's sort of like the mentor slash like big brother for some of the kids in
Mhm.
the group. So my second one, I don't know. I don't think you guys will probably have a problem with this one, saying that he's a villain who became a good guy. That is Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston in the varied MCU products that he has appeared in.
Would you call him a hero or an anti-hero?
It depends. Which variant are we talking about? That's what kind of, I feel like that's what kind of muddles the field a little bit, is when you start getting into the whole timelines and alternate universes and all that shit.
Well, because I still feel no matter what version he is, he's still looking out mostly for him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I feel like the film version of Loki that we have seen up until his death in Infinity War is a lot different from the Loki we see in the series,
Yes.
because he's supposed to be a different, version of Loki.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a little bit more altruistic and a little bit more like, he acts like Loki, but still is a good guy, and kind of, the whole love story with his female version of himself is a little weird.
He's a narcissist.
Yeah, the only person that can love Loki is Loki. And then you have to look at the other variants, and it's like, who are the good guy variants? Okay, so Old Man Loki is kind of a good guy variant, played by Richard E. Grant.
Alligator Loki.
The alligator Loki is definitely. But then there's the Thor Loki character who turns on them.
And then there's the
President
politician.
Loki.
President Loki. Politician, definitely a villain.
So yeah, I think it depends on the version of Loki you're talking about. Darth Vader, played by various actors, because in the original film you had what was the guy in the suit? David Prowse was the actor in the suit. James Earl Jones was the voice actor. They had a different actor playing him in his death scene in Return of the Jedi. Hayden Christensen in the newer versions of it and all that. So various actors. But the particular film I'm talking about for redemption arcs is Return of the Jedi. Because at the end, of course, he saves Luke from the Emperor.
But does that one act excuse all the deaths of the younglings?
And that's I mean, you're saying it to be funny, but I kind of meant it that way. Like, is his redemption enough to make up for the atrocities?
Hey, look, he becomes a Force ghost at the end. Not everybody becomes a Force ghost at the end.
Yeah, but which Force Ghost are we talking about? The original Force Ghost or the George Lucas, let me fuck with my own IP? And stick Hayden Christensen in there.
If we stuck
continuity, Leo, continuity.
If we were stuck with the original trilogy, his redemption was enough. But when they started with the new stuff and made it even worse, that's not enough of a redemption to make him a good guy.
Well, let's go it this way then. And he's not a villain who turns into a good guy. He's still kind of a villain. He just redeems himself in some small way.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's not necessarily the good guy in this film. But then that takes us to another Star Wars turn character. That's Kylo Ren, played by Adam Driver.
Yeah, he had a total change.
Yeah.
But he's
Yeah.
another who commits major atrocities, kills his own father.
Well, he was just going through his emo phase. God,
he was
I
rebellious
don't
stage.
want to do this. I need your help.
Here's the thing. As much and as many problems as the new trilogy had, I liked Adam Driver. I thought he was the most consistent actor.
Mhm.
Yes.
I thought he did a great job of conveying the emotions of the character. I thought he was the one who took it the most seriously. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And if you watch him in his other films, the guy's got friggin' acting
He's
talent.
got good acting
He's
chops,
an
yeah.
amazing actor.
Yeah.
So I look at his arc at the end was his arc was for him to turn to the light, but I feel
Right.
like it happened so quickly.
Mhm.
It did.
And then the whole kissing Ray at the end thing. I don't know what that was all about. I guess I understand him dying at the end and turning into
Well, it's where you finally want a Skywalker to hook up with a Palpatine.
yeah,
You know,
so they can create a Scalpatine.
a Scalpatine.
And then
Or a Palpa Walker.
she's not a Palpatine at the end. Remember, he's a Solo. He's not a Skywalker.
No, he used to have Skywalker.
He's Ben Solo.
Yeah, but
He's actually, if you see that shirt,
was a Skywalker.
You watch that shirtless scene, he's Ben Swallow.
His mother was a Skywalker.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. No, she was
Forgotten.
adopted
by
organic.
adoption.
That's a really, really muddled family tree there, man.
Yeah.
On to something else. Bucky Barnes, played by Sebastian Stan in various MCU products, the Winter Soldier.
From good to bad to good.
Yeah, good to bad to good. So yeah, I would definitely say he's one that counts as a villain turned good guy when you consider he fought in Endgame on the side of the heroes and all that.
Yeah,
that's an easy one. I think that one was a softball.
Yeah, that was.
Next one is a tough one. And a very serious film, and I was I had to kind of get out of this Star Wars comic book era here with this. William Money, played by Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. I love this movie. It's a great movie, one of the best westerns. He plays a killer who gives up his killing ways to become a family man, who then dusts off his guns to get vengeance on these two guys that roughed up this prostitute. Not sure if he's becoming a villain again, and then at the end, taking out all of the corrupt people in the town after they kill his friend. Well,
to the West.
When you put it that way.
Mike, I think this goes more with your anti-hero.
Yeah,
statement.
more the anti-hero.
He's not really somebody you want to aspire to be. But Clint Eastwood, goddamn, Clint Eastwood makes him look cool.
Well, there's a lot on this list you don't want to aspire to be.
Yeah. Do you aspire to be Snape, played by Alan Rickman in the Harry Potter franchise?
Okay, Alan Rickman. Could be Alan
I
Rickman.
aspire to be Alan Rickman.
Yeah, always.
and get dropped off the Taika Waititi building.
Hello, Alan Rickman. This is Alan Rickman. Don't forget to pick up.
Yeah. Mr. Potter. Apparently fame isn't all what it's meant to be. I just love the way he says things in the Harry Potter franchise.
Where he drolls out words.
Yes.
He does that with a couple characters. He did that with Nottingham. The sheriff of Nottingham.
I felt like Nottingham was like really unhinged.
Yeah.
He was a very unhinged character, as opposed to like Hans Gruber, who was very like intellectual and debonair. You know, what was it you said to me early? Happy yippee ki motherfucker!
It was the Englishman doing a
German accent.
German accent, which changes to a Southern accent.
I love his American accent when he gets caught on the top floor. He's like, "Oh no, don't shoot me, don't shoot me!"
I don't know what to do.
How do we go from Snape to all this? It really went on a Alan Rickman tangent. We should do an Alan Rickman episode.
Well, we all focus with Christmas approaching and him getting dropped off at the Okinawa building.
Yes, it's not Christmas till Hans Gruber is splattered on the pavement in front of Nakatomi Plaza.
That's what I said, Nakatomi.
The Taika Waititi building.
Back to Snape.
Back to Snape. Now, if you're somebody who read the books, I mean, you already had an in on what was going to happen here. If you're somebody who waited to watch the movies, you were probably shocked when he killed Dumbledore, only to find out that it was part of the plan. That he was double agent all along. You still don't like him?
No, his pining over Lily and his general behavior. I mean, it's not like he didn't become a Death Eater. He still became a Death Eater. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like part of the plan was to become a Death Eater so that they'd have somebody on the inside. He was doing it for redemption. It was selfish.
I thought it was to protect Harry.
He was the Death Eater before he became before it was protecting Harry.
Yeah, but then when Lily was killed by Voldemort, that's when he changed allegiances to Dumbledore.
Here's what it was. This is where he becomes a hero. It's when he kills Dumbledore and saves Malfoy.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's a better example of him being a hero than
Malfoy from doing all that.
Well, it was if Malfoy doesn't do it, you have to.
Right. But he took that bond to save Malfoy from doing any of that.
Maybe I'm just a sentimentalist, but every time I watch the Always scene, I'm like, God, he was a fucking hero. Always.
And he did send the
Patronus.
So we can find the Horcrux.
I had a poster in my classroom back when I taught high school that said, oh shit, I forgot what it said now. J.K. Rowling summed up love in one word better than Stephanie Meyer did in 7 books. She was the author of the Twilight series.
I thought
Sparkly vampires.
Han Solo did it in 2 words.
I know. I also had a poster that said Shakespeare, because in 400 years nobody's going to be talking about Stephanie Meyer anymore. The next one I have on the list, getting back into the MCU very briefly with Nebula, played by everybody's favorite Karen Gillan.
Definitely went from villain to hero.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, because it was all about the family. Her adopted sister Gamora and all that stuff. And I think Karen, I like how Karen Gillan plays her too.
She had a lot of baggage, which kind of weighed her down.
A lot of it was physical baggage too. Yeah.
Right. I think the villain part came out of necessity as an attempt to get the approval of her father.
Definitely.
But it was also like a multi-movie redemption too, because like she's a villain in the first film assisting what's his face Ronan. And then it's in the second film where she kind of explains why she did the things she did and wants to just have a sister. Being tortured in Infinity War.
Is she of the same species as Ronan? Is that Krill? Is that
I don't know. I'm sure
she's blue in her appearance, with all the mechanics and stuff. But
they never really say it in the movies. Yeah, they don't really get into it in the movies. I'm wondering if in the comic books they do or not. Because she does look, pretty much like her comic book counterpart. So I don't know. That's a good question. I thought I looked that one up. I think this one is a definite villain turned hero. Apollo Creed in Rocky 2, played by Carl
Hey.
Weathers.
Was he really a villain though?
He was the villain in the first film. You know, he's the braggadocious boxer who, you know, nobody can beat, and he gives this low life, you know, lowly guy from Philly a shot at the championship in the first film, and almost loses. Says, "I'm never going to fight you again."
A villain or an antagonist?
Well, I don't know. I feel like he was like kind of the villain. I mean, he's the guy that Rocky has to beat. So you know, antagonist typically is the villain.
Mhm.
I mean, he beats him in the second film, and they become friends after that. And then you know,
And the fact that he has and this is the extended cut, these are the
Mhm.
deleted scenes, but he has a dog fighting ring in his backyard that he also throws chicken fighting in. I mean, it's really.
I love it when
it's
chickens
a
punch each
library.
other.
Cocky Balboa.
Cocky Balboa. That one's for you, Neen. The next one I have on here is Anton Ego, voiced by Peter O'Toole in Ratatouille.
Oh, it took.
Was that really Peter O'Toole?
Mhm.
Is he still alive?
I think it was his last role.
Oh.
I think it was his last role. He had one acting performance very late in life in a movie called Venus, and then he did this voice acting role around the same time. And I want to say it wasn't too long after that he passed away. So I think this might actually be his last credit on IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was the voice of Anton Ego.
Oh,
Again, Mike, is he the villain or is he just an antagonist? I'll let you debate that one there, since you know. Since you wait till we start recording the episode to challenge my definition of villain. Not like I didn't share this list with you on Saturday.
That makes it a debatable episode. Debates are good.
I think he is kind of the villain because his I mean the actual villain is the head chef Skinner.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of like a secondary villain because his whole goal is to kind of shut this restaurant down with his review. And then eventually becomes, an investor in a restaurant run by a rat, which should be disgusting, but somehow Pixar makes it,
not so bad.
Makes it cute.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I'm looking at Peter O'Toole's IMDb here. Wow, he did a lot.
Yeah.
So he did Ratatouille in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Then he did Stardust, which is a great movie. It's an underrated film. Then he was in the TV show The Tudors. Then he did a movie called Dean Spanley, I never heard of. Christmas Cottage, Iron Road in 2009, Eager to Die in 2010. That must be his biography. He did a film in 2012 called El Dorado that has a 2.2 on IMDb.
Oh wow!
You know, he got that because he was in it.
Didn't they approach him for Mad Max?
For Fury Road?
Yeah.
To do what?
That wasn't him.
to play what? One of the corpses? Like what? His last role was in a movie called Diamond Cartel in 2015. They got a 2.9 on IMDb. His character's name is Tugboat.
Tugboat.
Like Jesus, Peter.
When Richard Harris passed away, and they were looking to fill the role of Dumbledore, I thought he would have filled in nicely from the mannerisms, from the appearance. He really could have pulled it off almost seamlessly, you know?
Yeah, you got to think like he and Richard Harris were very kind of similar in appearance and kind of similar in their career paths and everything too.
Mm-hmm.
But but I loved him as Anton Ego in Ratatouille. I thought it was such a creepy character. And if you have to look at next time you watch it, look for these little like Easter eggs. When you're first introduced to him and he's sitting at his typewriter, from the back, the typewriter looks like a skull. Like it's shaped to look like a skull, like just as if you didn't know he was already a villainous character.
Villain, yes.
Number 11 is Ebenezer Scrooge, played by various actors in The Christmas Carol and various, productions of it.
There is no debating this. He was definitely the villain that turned.
Mhm.
Is he like the ultimate example of villain turned good?
Yes, he's the,
Yeah.
that's the ultimate redemption story.
You have to think with so many different versions of the film existing out there. There's a reason why it keeps getting remade.
Mhm.
I wonder if that's like. I mean, I'm sure there's earlier versions of this in literature, but it's like this was written in the 1800s by Charles Dickens, so it's like to me, it's like a really early version of the villain turned good guy.
Yeah,
And you know what I noticed? If you look at A Christmas Carol, that is the text,
Mhm.
right? It's the text that you read. But every time that they've converted it to a theater, they've changed to Scrooged. And I wonder if that's because they changed things where Marley is the narrator throughout the play, or why did they have to change? Why can't they just have it as A Christmas Carol, the theatrical production of A Christmas
I
Carol?
feel like a lot of people don't realize that it's called A Christmas Carol.
Oh, really?
I don't know when I was growing up, like all the times that I've watched the different various versions of the film, I always thought it was called Scrooge. Because he's the main character. The story's all about
Sure.
him. It wasn't
Yeah.
until like I read the book in school that I knew it was actually called A Christmas Carol. And then you have the Scrooge film with Bill Murray, so that
Mhm.
takes in there. And then you'll also oftentimes like the film will be called Christmas Carol with Ebenezer Scrooge or something like that because it's like more about
Yeah.
the character. But I mean I think he is the ultimate example of villain turned good guy.
Mhm.
As is Dr. Octopus, is played by Alfred Molina in Spider-Man 2. I've talked about this before. Like, it's Spider-Man 2, I think, is the best Spider-Man film.
It really is an example of what I would just call or characterize as temporary insanity. There is no malice in the beginning. He's looking for a renewable or unending power source. And yes, his profession kind of dictates that he's very devoted at the risk of his wife, right? But it's not until the inhibitor chip is broken that he really like loses it, and then he comes back. I'm sorry, spoiler alert. He comes back at the end to listen to Peter and redeem himself. Unlike Green Goblin, who was kind of vicious from the beginning and just amplified that.
And that's why I love the Alfred Molina performance. I think it's one of the best villain performances in any of the comic book products because he's so empathetic. Because you could tell like he's not in control. There's all those scenes where he's talking to the hands, which is pretty phenomenal as well. And then I love his final line is when he's grabbing the big ball of energy, whatever it is, to drop it into the water. He says, "I will not die a monster." And that's a great last line for a character that's trying to redeem himself. And then they revisit it with the No Way Home.
Yeah.
Right.
They kind of revisit that storyline. So I he's definitely one of my favorite actors to have played a villain in any of the comic book franchises. And then I added a few today because I had thought of a few more, and I thought of this one for you there, Mike. Jaws, not the shark, the character from the James Bond franchise, played by Richard Kiel.
When you fall in love with a little short nerdy girl in space, you turn to a good guy.
And what made me think of this was I saw he was in. You're gonna love this, Mike. He's in the Adam Sandler film Happy Gilmore.
Yes, he was. Yes.
And I actually saw something online about it earlier where they were explaining like why he's always leaning on somebody in the scenes you see him in that film. And it's because he was in a really bad car accident a few years before that. He didn't have the strength to hold himself up.
Yep.
So they needed him standing to show how tall he was. So in many of the scenes, you see him like leaning on somebody because he needs the support.
Like the golf ball land on his foot. He had to play it off.
He had to play off his foot. Yeah. And he, and that made me think. And I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, he was Jaws. And Jaws is my earliest memory of watching a movie where a bad guy became a good guy.
Yes.
Like, it's the first time I remember watching, because I saw Moonraker as a kid. and I'm like, wow, he was the bad guy, but now he's helping James Bond. Wow, I didn't know that could happen.
Well, that was the second movie he was in. Too. He was a
Yeah.
bad guy for a whole film before this.
He was the bad guy in shit. I looked it up earlier and I can't remember what it was. And it was a few years before Moonraker. What because there were a couple movies in between that too.
Yep.
I want to say it was one of the shit. It's gonna fucking bother me now because I looked this up earlier. But yeah, he was in the first film that he appeared in. He was like the henchman to the villain, so he was a bad guy throughout the film.
Yeah.
And then it was in Moonraker where he falls in love with the woman and
He was in Egypt.
he becomes a good guy helping out James Bond. Richard Keel.
I also loved him on the Eagles. He was a good tight end.
Richard Keel.
Yeah.
They always talk about Jaws, the quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's Ron Jaworski. Yeah.
Ron Jaworski.
Yeah, Jaws.
The Spy Who Loved Me.
That's what I was thinking of. The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah, he was in The Spy. I knew Love was in the title. I couldn't remember. It was The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977, and then he did Moonraker in 1979. Yeah, so I think that's a good one too, because that's definitely one where it's like an obvious turn from evil to good. The next one I thought, hey, I'm gonna get kind of literary with this one. Boo Radley, played by Robert Duvall in To Kill a Mockingbird.
I like that one.
Throughout the film, he's like this like kind of like specter
Reckless,
of a character, sort of a phantom that the kids are always trying to see.
Mm-hmm.
And
everybody has that one neighbor on their block growing up that it's like, no, you don't go near them. That was Mr. Ronnie Bart on my block growing up. Ronnie Bart, you stay away from his house.
He was also like they were all like the rumors that he had like killed his dad or something like that. Like all these like weird rumors about the guy.
Somebody with a pair of scissors.
Yeah, and so at the end of the film, he saves the kids from Mr. Ewell, who is trying to injure them. And you find out that he's just this like childlike, personality in a man's body.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. Very first role for Robert Duvall had no lines whatsoever, just standing in a corner looking strange. Next one I have is I don't know if this counts or not. I saw it on a site where I was like researching this earlier, so I said let me put it on there and see what you guys think. Frank Lucas, played by Denzel Washington in American Gangster.
I think I need to rewatch the movie. I think it's been too long, and I'm. It's not
at the end. At the end, he becomes an informant for the like task force that Russell Crowe was in charge of.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Does that make him a good guy?
Being an informant, would that also make Donnie Brasco a good guy?
Well, Donnie Brasco is an FBI agent pretending to be a mobster.
So he's a good guy who's playing a bad guy, but he's really
a good guy.
Right.
This is a guy who rose in the ranks as a gangster in New York to become the head of a Harlem mob, and then turned on all of his own like brothers and his workers.
It just makes him a snitch.
Yeah, like he becomes a snitch for this task force in order to get like a reduced prison sentence.
And as we know, snitches get stitches.
Snitches get stitches. Yeah, I put it on there because I wasn't sure, because it was on a site that I looked at earlier, and I'm like, I don't know if that makes him a good guy or not. I think that just makes him somebody.
Would that also make what's his name from Goodfellas a good guy then?
Yeah, Henry Hill. Yeah, like to me, it doesn't make him a good guy. It just makes him somebody who's like looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it was interesting that it was on that list that I saw earlier, because the next one's kind of another one too, like Frank Abagnale, played by Leo DiCaprio in Catch Me If You Can.
He became a crook. He went from a crook to working with the police.
Working with the FBI division that Tom Hanks' character works for. But again, is he a good guy now, or is he just a snitch?
Well, he's not a snitch because, like the other one, because he's not actually snitching on anybody. He's just showing the FBI how to do it.
Yeah, like this is how you identify.
It's the same way as a art thief becoming, working for like insurance companies to get art back.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I put both of those on there because they were on that list I saw earlier, and I'm like, I'm not sure about that. Just like I'm not sure about Wreck-It Ralph, played by John C. Reilly in Wreck-It Ralph.
Well, in the video game,
No,
he was a
he's
villain.
right.
But in real life, he was never really a villain.
No, he's a bad guy, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Right. You know, it's okay. No, how's it go? It's good to be a bad guy. I'm a bad guy.
I am
and
a
that's
bad guy.
good.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the speech. Quote by Ralph. Where is it? I'm bad, and that's good. I will never be good, and that's not bad. There's no one I'd rather be than me.
That's it.
I'll tell you what. At the end, when he's falling into the mountain of Mentos
Mm-hmm. Mentos and soda.
and Mentos and Coke, and he's saying that line, I did tear up a little bit. I did get a little teary eyed. I love Wreck-It Ralph. It's one of my favorite movies. And he's a bad guy by definition of the video game that he's in.
Yeah.
But you can tell by his personality that he's really a good guy, just playing a bad guy.
But in the movie, he was never the villain. The villain was the little king guy.
Yeah, villain was Turbo, played by National Treasure Alan Tudyk.
That's right.
King Candy.
Oh, hello there. King Candy.
Let the race begin. Yeah. You hit a guy with glasses. Didn't think of that one.
You hit a
guy with glasses.
That's curious. Yeah.
Probably one of the few times I found Sarah Silverman tolerable.
But not like on her
commercial where you go to the website and she calls you a pervert. Yeah, the feet commercial. The last one I have on here is sort of a cheat. The T-Rex in Jurassic Park.
See, can you actually call something that's doing what it's naturally born to do a villain?
Yeah, the villain is the lawyer.
Yeah.
The blood-sucking
lawyer.
Or the guy that actually set them all free.
Yeah, right. Or the one who spared no expense.
Mm-hmm.
I put it on there it's a cheat because it's like that last scene where the T-Rex comes in and saves them from the raptors, and you're like, holy shit, the T-Rex saved them. That's kind of like why I threw it in there. I just thought it was kind of funny.
And it's done that in a couple of different occasions. He fights the Spinosaurus Rex, or the Spinosaurus in the second one, or the third one. And it only wants its baby in the second one.
Yeah, and then in Jurassic World, it's all the made-up dinosaurs that they created with science.
Yeah, and then in the last one, Dominion, he again comes out to go after one of the other dinosaurs and teams up with another dinosaur. It's really quite the
Blue, the raptor.
dinosaur triangle. Yeah,
I still think the most underrated scene in all of the Jurassic Park franchises is the scene where Alan Grant is sleeping on the plane in Jurassic Park 3 and has a dream that the raptor's talking to him. Alan! Any of you guys have any names to add to this list? I think I was trying not to go overboard like I tend to do with these. I thought 18 was a pretty decent amount. It was actually 12.
Do we include Slimer? I mean,
Slimer.
He's Slimer, and I don't know. He doesn't really redeem himself. He just goes from being annoying to being cute.
Yeah, but that's only in the cartoon series. It's not really in the movies, I think, where that happens.
No, because he was driving the bus in the second one.
Well, that's true. He was on the bus. He got Lois Tully to the museum.
He did.
Here, I got a couple other ones here. Gru in Despicable Me.
Okay. No, that's yeah.
I guess, yeah.
With the kids.
The Terminator from T1 to T2. So he went from the original Terminator, he was the killer, and then he's the savior in T2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, saving John Connor.
T4 and T5 and T6.
Mystique in the X-Men films. Now, if you're talking about the Jennifer Lawrence version. I think, because she kind of
Yeah.
starts helping him. It's not the Rebecca Maine Stamos one, doesn't.
Though it did make me question Magneto at a certain point.
I was going to say that.
Because,
I think Magneto is
you know,
somebody who kind of like walks
he's
the
a
border a
villain
little
in the
bit.
first one. He kind of helps out the X-Men in the second one, but really it's more like Revenge on the Striker. But in the third one, he is working with them, isn't he, to like
Yeah,
curb,
kind of.
the Phoenix.
Megamind. It's a funny one, I think. And here, I got one more for you from villain to hero. I can't believe I didn't see this. I didn't think of this one earlier. The Grinch.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. So before we get to our closing segments here, you guys have any TV show recommendations or anything? Anything you've watched recently that's pretty good?
I know. I've been keeping up on Andor. I know it's a slow burn, but it's enjoyable. It's really more of a spy thriller, and it's in the universe, but it's totally separate from the Skywalker saga. And I've liked it. I mean, not yesterday's episode, but the week before was an amazing episode, and reaffirmed my love for Andy Serkis as an actor.
Yeah, I heard he appears as like an actual actor in the film.
Yeah, no, it's actually him, and he's just as good as he does with motion cap. He's just as good live. He's amazing in his role.
Yeah, I have to get back into it. I struggled through those first couple episodes. I have to give it a second chance.
Yeah, I gotta catch up on it. I've watched it off and on. I've watched some of She-Hulk.
She-Hulk was fun.
It's been fun. It's quirky.
It's fun. It's quirky. It's fun. You got to kind of take it separate from everything else that the MCU does.
And I watched a documentary the other day called "The Meaning of Life." It's about Monty Python's last live show. So check it out. It's on Netflix.
I've been I just watched the first episode of a new anthology series on Netflix called Cabinet of Curiosities, which is produced by Guillermo del Toro. And each episode is a different director and a different story. It's kind of like Tales from the Crypt meets the Twilight Zone.
Nice.
So like weird little twists, but like with a little bit more like fright and gore that you would get from like the Tales from the Crypt. So I watched the first episode. First episode stars Tim Blake Nelson as this guy who buys abandoned storage units and then goes through them to try to find like treasures. And in this one, he kind of finds more than he bargained for, and it's kind of like a Lovecraftian horror type.
He finds a monkey's paw.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I had this beer recently called Monkey Toe.
Also, I saw that Enola Holmes 2 is out.
Yeah,
I watched that the other night. Me and Megan watched that 2 nights ago. It was very good.
Yeah.
A lot more involvement with Henry Cavill as Sherlock.
From the commercials.
Yeah, like it looks like it's more like the drunken Sherlock Holmes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The drunk. Yeah.
Hi.
And Megan and I, you mentioned the Curious Cabinet, or Cabinet of Curiosities. Yeah, Megan and I watched something. We've enjoyed this guy's productions on Netflix. He did Midnight Mass. He's done The Haunting of Hill House. He's done The Haunting of Bly Manor. I know he's working on The Fall of the House of Usher, which should be fun. But he did this one called The Midnight Club, which is a bunch of terminally ill kids who kind of spend this. They're not like on death's door, but they know that they're dying, and they spend their time in a kind of like a teenage hospice, right? The hospice is slightly haunted. That's kind of interwoven into the story, but it's like every episode they meet together at midnight in the library, and they each tell a ghost story. So they each come up with something new. So each episode even, you have a different story coming from each of them. And it's fun. It's very enjoyable.
I saw the trailer for that, and it looked interesting, so I think I might have to check that one out too. It's Mike Flanagan is the creator of all those series. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't wait for the fall of the House of Usher. 'Cause
That
looks
that
great.
sounds awesome. I can't wait to see that.
Mhm.
Mike, you got any beer wisdom for us this evening?
I do. Beer won't solve all your problems, but it works better than water.
You guys have any final comments to make on your drinks tonight?
Can't go wrong with Oktoberfest, but you definitely can go wrong with pumpkin ale from Spellbound. Oh, this was. I mean, it was strong, and I knew I should have expected strong, but I think maybe I was expecting more sweet and less. Yeah.
Is it like a little
So-
spicy?
It was definitely not. I didn't get pumpkin as much as I got punched. You know, it was very strong.
Okay, Michael, yours sounded pretty good.
I still have not had a bad beer or drink from Devil's Backbone. That being said, the Old Fest lager is a little more malty than I thought a lager would be. It's still good, but not as light as I thought it would
Well,
be.
you said it's their Oktoberfest version, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
tend to have a little bit more of that caramel, like malty flavor to it.
Now, the Bourbon Orange Smash, that's a dangerous drink.
Yeah, sounds amazing, man. That sounds
It's
really good.
smooth, and you could probably drink 3 or 4 of these if you're sitting there and not realize it, and get up and fall flat on your damn face.
Oh wow!
But it's good. Oh my god!
I really like the Much Ado Hell's Lager from Aslan Beer Company. This is
Mhm.
very, very refreshing. This would make like a great summer beer.
So
A really,
I
really good
saw
summer beer.
Aslan Beer down in Naaman's Road
Okay,
at the Totally Wine Store. So
I'll have to try to check it out.
I wonder if it's at the Totally Wine and More over here in Jersey.
What to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, look it up on
yeah,
Untapped.
but if you go down the one in Naaman's Road, there's no tax.
Yeah.
Oh, good point.
All right, so everybody, thank you for joining us tonight for episode 84, Villains Who Turned to the Light Side, Villains Who Became Good Guys. We hope you enjoyed listening to the podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. Don't forget you can email us at filmsoffermentation@gmail.com or visit linktree.com/filmsoffermentation to get all of our podcast and social media links. You can purchase our merchandise at teespring.com at the Films of Fermentation storefront. Listen to us on Good Pods, help us get our rankings up, all of that good stuff. We are going to be taking a week off as the week following this recording is Thanksgiving. And so we will not be putting out a new episode that week. I might throw a mini pod out at some point just to get some material out there, but we're not going to be doing another full episode until the week of November 28th. We'll be doing our next recording on December 1st, and that's going to be episode 85. Episode 85 is a special episode because we're going to be looking at The Godfather, which turned 50 years old this year. So we're going to be taking a look at The Godfather at 50 in episode 85 in 2 weeks. So don't forget to stop by the crossroads between Pickled and Fermented when we bring you that new episode. Again, I'm Leo.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Mike.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.